Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone who is with me. Good morning. You know, I was expecting that to be a harder turnaround than it was. I didn't really sleep much last night, but strangely, I guess I am still running on adrenaline and energy from last night's discussion. I said, you guys give me energy here in the mornings. Conversations like that with Doug last night, that gives me energy. That's why it's long. And I've got lots to do, but they're worth it. I so enjoy it. Tomocrat was there last night saying, yeah, I saw you two talking an hour, 1.5 hours extra last night. There was fun, but man, what a deep dive, LOL. It completely was. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, last night, Doug is fantastic. If you are not watching Table Talk in the evenings, if you like sci-fi, I mean, this is the Geekverse. You like sci-fi, fantasy. We talk about stories. Doug and I are fans of the original series Star Trek movies. And so he and I have been taking deep dives into them. We did a Star Trek, the motion picture Table Talk. That was 3 weeks ago. Well, actually, I guess technically 2 weeks ago. There was 3 episodes ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Then we did Star Trek 2. We did 4 hours. I thought that was an epic marathon. Not my longest stream. I got notes on what the longest stream actually is. I'd have to go back and find it. It was actually, my longest stream was actually one where I was playing Vaxanadu video game, and I got rated. Yeah, I got rated by another channel. So that was actually the longest stream. That one went on for like 8 hours or something like that. But so I thought talking for 4 hours about just the Wrath of Khan was epic. I was like, I can't believe we talked about that movie for 4 hours. But then Star Trek 3, we were both thinking, oh, this will be a couple of hours. I mean, it's Star Trek 3. We ended up talking for 5.5 hours last night. We talked for 5.5 hours on Star Trek 3. We fixed it. We came up with fantastic stuff that could have made that movie a lot better from the story structure perspective. But we were kinder to it than I think many people were probably expecting. But we still fixed it. We still fixed it. What I've got to do, I've got to take those, because I know that, I mean, they're fantastic listens. You can dive in. But what I need, I think if I start putting a bunch of movie and film discussion clips on this channel, people will reject it. You know, that's not what the YouTube algorithm likes. So even though we do the live show on Tuesday, Table Talk, Tuesdays and potentially Thursdays, but it's difficult to book guests. But what I've got to do is I've got to take our discussions on actual film, and I just need to make a separate channel, go back to the idea of having a separate channel that's just like story analysis, Heath's story analysis or something like that, and make that just like 8 to 12 minute clips of different subjects that we talk about. There'd be a lot of them that could go over there, but I've got to make that. And so if you want to take the deep dive, man, I recommend it. It's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. You know, you can replay it. Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3. Well, Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3. But it will take time, but I need to clip that and put that onto a different channel so that other people can find it. Good morning, Mike. Good morning. Now we're doing The Dark Knight next Tuesday. So The Dark Knight, that was specifically requested by the audience. So you all had requested that Brianna, Doug, and I, so Brianna will be back next week. You specifically requested that Brianna, Doug, and I talk about The Dark Knight. So The Dark Knight, we're gonna do an analysis of on next Tuesday. Hey, Mike, good to see you. Channel member, and Sable, one of our newest channel members. Welcome, Mental Fish. Zero the Blade, another channel member. Welcome. And Zero Theory, part of this. We got the Zero Troop and we've got the Phoenix Troop. Good morning, Chase. Good morning. Sable Phoenix says, that was a marathon. Midnight my time when it stopped. Yeah, it was 1 my time when it stopped. Vision, hello. Lamenting thousands of gear and battle cards. Glad to have something to listen to. Good morning. I'd love for you to see a supercut of the parts where specific changes were discussed that would make the film better. That would also be a good supercut. That would be a good supercut. I need to be clipping. It's difficult to make dedicated videos. It's also difficult to clip. It takes more time. It takes time to clip, but I need to be putting out like clips of the game stuff on this channel. But then, yeah, on a different channel, we need to be talking about the we need to be talking about the film stuff, the clips, the film stuff. That needs to be done too, because I think that would be very popular here on YouTube. That has a potential, I think, to be very popular on YouTube. People do love to talk about films and stories and things like that. Laminate. Lament. I thought that was lamenting. Sometimes I'm lamenting all of these cards, like all these pieces of plastic that are not sitting around. Laminating thousands of gear and battle cards. Glad to have something to listen to for Pathfinder 2. Okay. It's better than lamenting. Tomocrat, well past midnight for me. Heck, I never knew Savick was planned to be pregnant. Yeah. Robert, good morning, Robert. PH Arblex, good morning. Okay. Okay. Speaking of film and table talk, I said that I might be talking to Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment tonight. Ordinarily, we don't have table talk on Wednesdays. And I would like to start doing possibly members-only wind downs on Wednesdays. But I wasn't going to start this week because I was supposed to be talking with Michelle. But then she messaged me after Oh, good show yesterday. Stargate Mind, you watched? Okay, excellent. Stargate Mind said great show yesterday. And watched last night. It was a great show yesterday. And it was a lot of great streaming yesterday. Lots of energy, lots of great streaming. So tonight, I was going to be talking to Michelle with 2 L's from Force of Light Entertainment about good and evil in storytelling and its relationship with society and stuff. But she texted me after the morning grind yesterday to say that she wasn't going to be able to make it tonight. Can she delay until next Wednesday? So it might be next Wednesday before we do that. The best way to know especially when a table talk is done at a non-standard time, is to be part of the Raven Keep Discord server, because I always do signal everybody in the Discord server when one of those live and we have the special guests, especially when we have a special guest and something like that at non-standard time, so everybody knows. That's the best place to know that. But then, like, after the stream last night, like at 1 o'clock in the morning, I saw that she had texted me at like 10 p.m. again and said, actually, she may be able to make it tonight after all. How much time do we need? Actually, I should just check right now to make sure she hasn't messaged me. So I think this is trying to coordinate people. Sometimes it is difficult. So she was then like, actually, maybe I can make it tomorrow night. So I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, she hasn't messaged me back as of right now. So if I knew, I would just tell you what was going on, or we would start like the wind down members only stream for like on Wednesday nights, but I don't know. So we will just have to see. I guess that can be up in the air. Check the Raven Keep Discord server for information on that. Stray. Hey, Stray. Welcome, Stray. I really want to talk to Michelle because she's a minister of some particular Christian denomination, and she just finished a PhD in theology, but she doesn't really talk about it that much on her channel. So I thought that she would be a good one to talk about good and evil and storytelling with. We're talking about RPG design, world development, and specifically the world of Rabivania today. And I'm really embarrassed that it's been this long since we've talked about this on this channel. I've been in a major slump for the past month and a half. I've been in a major slump, and I've been trying to fight my way out of it. And especially over the weekend, I started getting some air. I was talking about that. So I'm trying to use this energy to keep going on, because it has been a while. Because it used to be on Tuesday, we were doing rule design. So we got back to that last week, because I was thinking, at least that makes me work on something all week to have it to talk about on Tuesdays. And then I just got out of that habit. And then that also I was supposed to work on something with my world building over a week. And then that gives me something to talk about on Wednesday. So Tuesdays was RPG, like rules design. Wednesday is our world building and also integrating the rules into one of the worlds that we're building. But we've still got lots of different RPGs to review, but we might be kind of shifting format a little bit, because I know the RPG design stuff is popular. So we might take a look at some of these other RPGs in the context of RPG design. So like Amber and Noblesse, I think that's going to be coming soon. We're going to talk about that in the context of what are they doing as far as diceless mechanics go. And we might start doing more RPG designs, because, hey, I got to get stuff out. I got to get stuff out. And I'm embarrassed that I have not been able to do this. Oh, you're the same way? Zero the Blade. I know the feeling, Heath. I had a black cloud hanging over my head for the past few weeks. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. But I hope that if we're all giving each other energy here, we all kind of get better together. I don't want to get deep into this now, but one of the reasons I just sit here alone at the house, it's just me here in the house. And one of the reasons that I started the morning grind anyway was because, like, I went through last year I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was the least productive of my entire life for about 6 months last year, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. It was actually depression. I'd fallen into depression just being here at the house long, because I'm used to having people like here at the house when we're shooting the cultists, or when we were shooting the dinner and a board game together. And, I had people here making stuff, shooting stuff. Brianna was sometimes down here, come here from Colorado. She, lived here at the house for weeks, months. I don't know if there were some stretches where she was here. So there was always activity in the house, but then we didn't get the revenue generated enough to really keep going, which I'm very sad about, because we had such a great team together. But we didn't generate enough revenue to actually keep going. So that's why I'm having to kind of restart and start from the beginning. So I feel like, especially with the launch of the Rabivania Kickstarter, kind of launch from the beginning and try to grow again. But when everybody left, I guess I was working here pretty good for 3 or 4 months, but then I guess I hit some kind of limit. about the amount of time I can just stay here in my house by myself. And so to get myself out of that, I started the live streaming, and it's been great. It's been great. Yes, moving rocks. We need to do that more too. So some of you don't even know about the rock moving. We haven't actually talked about that here on the grind recently, because we talked about productivity and stuff like that. So we all keep going. We all should help each other out with productivity and getting where we want to go. Okay, so speaking of that, so I was very happy that that's why we're getting in the new format. Goodnight Sword underway, and I saw we have a new backer. I'm going to start. I've got to send out some more emails to the list, and like I said, I also have a preview of Goodnight Sword I need to send out to Discord, and yesterday I didn't get to it, but I need to, because we've got the clock counting down here. So Goodnight Sword is on Kickstarter. If you know somebody who has a kid of this age, even if it's not you, I know this is a little bit of a strange one to start with, because it's not like RPG focused, because that'll be next. But this is the first book. I got stories too, and this book sets the tone with with the art by Adam Botsford and what this world is supposed to look like. And we have 42 backers now, so I'm very happy about that, because this it makes it finally underway, and it feels so good to finally be underway. So we have 42 backers here on Goodnight Sword, and if you haven't checked it out, I mean, this is the world we can talk about building right here. So we're going to talk more about it here, but Goodnight Sword is here. The animated audiobook read by Brianna Silva, narrated by Brianna Silva, and animated by her as well, is embedded on the page. And I want to do a lot more stories, because I was trying to clip all these and do other YouTube channels, but I also want to get out the stories. Goodnight Sword ebook and hardcover books. Oh, Mike says buying several to send to the kids. Thank you, Mike. Sable Phoenix says, I don't think the PDF is actually for sale either, but I have one if you need it. I'm not sure. Yeah, Sable Phoenix says, I'm sad that my nieces are a bit too old for Goodnight Sword now. Yeah, I know. I wish that I had been able to get this to some of my other nieces, nephews. I've got some that are still the right age, but I wish that some of them, I had this idea and been able to get it out earlier to some of the ones who are still grown. But don't worry, there will be other books that are older coming. Hey, James. Hey, James. Oh, it was about nobles. Okay. It was 5.5 hours. 1 a.m. my time. Okay, let's do a bit of news. I just want to ask you if anybody's seen this, because I wanted to talk about this and I had forgotten about it until I saw that we're under 48 hours, no, actually under 24 hours. This Alchemy RPG. Has anybody seen this? Is anybody backing this? Alchemy, a reimagined virtual tabletop. So this is what is going on in the news right now. An immersive way to play tabletop role-playing games online. I wanted to look at this. Obviously, it's very popular. 3,768 backers. They're coming in the last day. 625,000 raised. We had talked about virtual tabletops yesterday, or at least we had talked about playing online yesterday and trying to play in an easy way without necessarily all of the trappings and all of the things that can be rather fiddly with a virtual tabletop. Because we've also talked about on the grind how sometimes some game masters were saying, particularly when they started playing more online over the pandemic, that my players actually expect more from, and it takes more time to prep for a virtual tabletop experience than it does if I just had everybody over and we were sitting there at the table. Like, other people would accept, sketches drawn in the moment on the table, but if we're doing virtual tabletop, people want 3D models. And I mean, I know that people like Lou, I know, would go to a tremendous amount of trouble. Of course, he did for physical games too, but also for his online games, to setting up the walls and then having light sources. So you have the fog of war and what you see with light and stuff like that. But yesterday we said that I really enjoyed playing in the index card RPG virtual environment because it was lightweight and it was easy and it did everything that we needed to do. And it seemed rather easy to prep and easy to use in the game. So I saw this and I was interested because it looked like they were taking a new approach to trying to play online. And they've got like Call of Cthulhu here, like this put in Vast Grim. I also noticed that it was interesting that Vast Grim is here. Futures deck only. Vast Grim, that's designed by a friend of mine, Brian Colin, who I've talked to on Table Talk. He's the creator of Vast Grim, and he does all these sculptures and art stuff like that. So I haven't talked to him about this project. I guess I should, but so actually they might have just haven't quite unlocked that yet. Something to unlock. I'd like to talk to him about this because I really don't understand virtually the alchemy, the virtual table talk table talk. That's what I've got. A window into any world. Alchemy is the first virtual tabletop to built specifically for cinematic immersion and theater of the mind gameplay. That's why it interested me, because I was like, well, that's kind of what I was thinking about when I was talking about online play. Not necessarily I got to have exactly the right 3D model of my miniature and have them make sure they can move around in exactly this square and to this square and stuff like that. I would say, yeah, can we build something for, at least those are the words I would use, and I don't know what their implementation is. Its scene-based structure empowers game masters to tell incredible stories with animated environments, particle effects, ambient sound, and music. So we do have animated environments, but it enables you to do so much more. Create worlds. I'm all about this because I was like, is this going to allow me to create a world in this and get people the feel again? I'm bringing it up. You got the feel of this. So create worlds, craft your worlds beyond words, immerse your creations with lore-rich articles, fully mechanized NPCs, and pre-made characters. Effortlessly stream games. Okay, so it's set up for streaming. Discover content. Discover a universe of immersive story worlds like never before, with unforgettable adventures ready to be had at the touch of a button. I'm wondering, does this make the world executable? Because I like World Anvil, and I had started putting information into World Anvil about Rabivania, and I think I still want to finish that project because I think it's going to make a very nice, eventually, like home page for each one of the worlds. So like set up at talesofrabivania.com, the articles aren't published, but you can see that I started putting in a World Anvil page for that. But, okay, what my problem with World Anvil, though, is that it's not executable. It was excessive. Sable Phoenix, you call it excessive? But, okay, my problem with World Anvil is that it was not executable. You do all this stuff, you put all this stuff for your world building into World Anvil, and you can have a great site for it, and it's got tons of tools, and I like it. But then, can you play with all that information? And so I was wondering with this, does this give you a play environment to be able to bring in that world building so your world becomes more executable in a play environment? If so, I need to look at this more, but I don't, I'm looking at the same thing. I know what you guys know, like looking at this. It's the alchemy of all these features working together that creates the most immersive and intuitive way to experience tabletop role-playing games. Welcome to Alchemy. So I'm potentially interested. A year after the early access beta, we're excited to introduce Alchemy version 1. We need your help to get it across the finish line. In addition to offering the complete Alchemy feature set, version 1 introduces officially licensed first-party support for 12 game systems, including content modules for over 50 of the industry's most beloved publishers and creators, and Alchemy enhanced an immersive way to experience your favorite titles with a thematic experience, bespoke motion graphics, original scores, and ambiences. As you know, I've also been looking for ways for people to experience the worlds. And we talked about that yesterday. Okay, if we build the worlds, we do the world building here. And if we do the rules, well, okay, RPG books are great if you've got a group of people to play with, like around a table. That might be all of our kind of preferred experiences. But if you don't, do you have single player options? If you don't have the physical options and you still want to play with other people, can you get together in an easy way to experience the world together? Hey, maybe I think this is what PH was saying, with the speed of AI, in which AI is evolving, we'll soon have a VTT that generates a 3D model and effects while the GM narrates. Yeah, well, maybe this will do that. We need it. Well, I would say that's the preference, but for a lot of us, but sometimes it's not available. So what do you do? Zero Theory says has a great time with Tabletop Simulator. Zero the Blade says there are a few virtual tabletop programs, and it's hard to decide if I should stick to Master's Toolkit from ArcForge. I don't know that one, or switch to something else. So yeah, there are several different options. I don't know. So this game right here, Dragonbane. I noticed that came out recently. We never got a chance to look at that. So I still don't have a lot of understanding about what this is a long page. So, but obviously it's oriented in some kind of deck format. So I don't understand of what that is. Horror deck. And I like decks of cards anyway. So modern deck. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious because what they're saying here sounds interesting. It sounds good to me. Alchemy and Enchanted experiences empower game masters with the most immersive way to run a role-playing game for their players. Enhanced titles include the core rulebook module, custom thematic interfaces, animated title screens, 10x atmospheric looping overlays, 10 different ambient sound landscapes, 10 minutes of original dynamic music. I would love to have. Well, okay. I need Rose. I won't look at the videos, but I need to look in here. I'm curious. It seems like it's world building. Alchemy provides deeply integrated world building tools to help you homebrew your world, collaborate with others, and seamlessly integrate it into your games. It sounds like they're doing something that I would potentially be interested in. So is anybody backing? I don't see if anybody's noted that they're backing here. Hero Forge works with Tabletop Simulator. The Nose Play says, "Hey Heath, a neat idea I've seen when executing a digital reference was recently executed in a new game called Age of Wonders 4. Paradox does it in many of other games where hyperlinked." Okay, I'll check that out. And hyperlinked encyclopedia of information pops up, note card size tiles that stack. So you mouse over keywords and a new note card pops up when you and you can go really deep. All right. Well, I'm curious about it. And it's close. So if we want to get in on it, it's closing down anyway. It's close 23 hours on this the first release or whatever it is. All right, let's go to our RPG stuff and world building over here. Let me open up my world primer because I'm almost done with this. Like I said, I had started layout. Share screen. Okay. So my idea had been, because I'll go over the what this is, because like I said, it's been embarrassingly long since I brought this up. So we have new people who I think have found who have joined the stream and joined us, which is fantastic. Ever since, oh look, we got a sip since I've done this before. So I'll talk about the goal here and then where I am. Hey, everybody I got Mountain Dew Zero this morning. In fact, I probably need to go for a refill. So after last night, I woke up and so Mountain Dew Zero. So everybody, let's breathe and sip before I start reading here. So breathe and sip. Here we go. 2 deep inhales, complete exhales. Do that with me. Do that with me. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel better. Absolutely. Helps you out. Okay, so my goal was, or my thinking was, because I continue to think that the story writing and the design of the worlds is one of the biggest things that I have to contribute out there to the Geekverse in the world. And so I had been writing with David, or I had been doing the writing. I'd been developing with David LaRocca. He was supposed to be doing the art, and I was doing the writing. The Journey to the Tree of Sorrows, which does have its own YouTube channel. I don't run that YouTube channel anymore, and there hasn't been much posted to it. But my stories, the stories that I did write, are on professionally narrated on the Journey to the Tree of Sorrows YouTube channel. That was a dark, hardcore Cthulhu Mythos World, Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. When I was partnered with David LaRocca at Infinite Black, the purpose of Infinite Black had been to create, to work on IP development. It didn't end up going that way. We ended up doing a whole bunch of dice. We ended up doing Elder Dice. We ended up doing a whole bunch of dice. But nonetheless, I did write Dark Horror Cthulhu RPG books, which have never been published. And so they were sent over to David. I finished them. I spent a lot of time on them, but they have not been published yet. So I have a dark kind of serious world too, which is Theophany, which tells the story of the fall of Satan. So we were going to simultaneously develop, we're supposed to, Theophany and Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. But that never happened. So I wrote those dark horror RPG for Cthulhu. And then when I left Infinite Black, I said, well, all right, let me start with my less dark and terrible world, which is the Tales of Rabivania, which is the Tales of anthropomorphic, which it involves anthropomorphic rabbits and also other animals as well. And I intend for this to be a family world. I want this to be a world where if you've got children of all ages, starting with very young children with Goodnight Sword, but then going up, that if they are working or they're reading something in Tales of Rabivania or they're playing something in it, that you know they're in good hands. The Tales of Rabivania is I take it very seriously, but it is more lighthearted. It's not like, Theophany will be like Game of Thrones on HBO. This is not. But I also want this to be something that family genre that you actually have to, that the parents will enjoy as well. That if you're an adult, you enjoy it, you don't just tolerate it. So that's what I was trying to do with this. So because I've been writing dark horror, I decided to start writing Rabivania books. And so I had started writing story books, and I had written about 80% of one of the Tales of Rabivania books. And then I sent it over to Cameron, and Cameron bounced it. Cameron said, all right, I understand what you're trying to do. He had a lot of commentary, but he was like, this is not the story you need to tell right now. So you need to tell, it was actually the mythic story of Clovis. We'll talk about him. The mythic rabbit who brought fire to the rabbits and forged the first weapons. I was telling his story. So I was like, I would have to completely rewrite that book anyway. It needs an extensive rewrite. But he said, don't write this book right now. Anyway, you need to write in the main timeline, and you need like a hero's journey tale. And so I have been working for months trying to get something that Cameron believes is a professional story and of high quality, but nonetheless, because I wrote one book and then I've spent months trying to actually even come up with an outline and get the beat down on what this story is going to be that passes approval, I feel like I'm way behind. And so eventually what I did was Rabivania is all Vorpal bunnies. And so eventually what I did is I realized that I needed to separate the story writing from the RPG development and the world building, and just because I kind of conceptualized it all together, like, well, it's time to sit down and write something in Rabivania. But now I realize I need to separate those things. So that's why on the morning grind, well, it's going to be a long time before I can share a lot of the stories, but I can work on world building and I can work on RPG development. And so also writing one of these big, the plan is writing one of these big classic sized, world books. This is Lou's Thrones and Bones. This is fantastic. It is great. Eventually, I want to have something like this. This is kind of what I wrote for Journey to the Tree of Sorrows. It was a massive project like this. But the idea was that, well, hey, I really like the size of Fate Accelerated right here. And why don't we use this as a template? So it's 6x9, it's 48 pages, and start by writing rules or world primers for all of the worlds that could fit in something like this. And then that way they can be created more quickly. And like I said, it's embarrassing how slow this has been. But that's something that's much more possible than trying to do something like this all in one go. So why not do a Tales of Rabivania one like this, and then do a Theophany one like this? Because I'm also about ready to also turn to do Theophany, because I've been working on Rabivania for a lot longer than I was planning. I was planning on alternating between the two. But because it was just taking a lot longer because of the story situation to get, we should probably hide that someplace. Needs to be hidden someplace in there. I don't put in a whole lot of like jokes like that, but if there was on the map someplace, that might work. I was saying I was like to bounce back and forth. So I'm looking forward also to getting back to the darker, more serious thing, but I was glad that this is basically almost done, because I decided to put 5 E rules in here. But I want to do one for Faded Edge as well. So that's why I was like, all right, we got to look at Faded Edge rules development like we were doing yesterday. Got to get back to that. I think it's probably good to put some 5e rules in this because everybody knows 5e rules. There are a lot of people who are playing 5e or 5e adjacent games like the Tales of the Valiant and things like that, that people know that. And I know there are also game masters who are like, well, I would love to try out different things, but my players won't accept a new rule system. So also, if you have smaller books like this, the potential is there to put out world information in multiple different rule sets so that have them sitting there, especially if you're doing print on demand, so that you have several different rule systems so that, hey, if you do want to check something new out, but your table doesn't want to learn a new rule system, well, hey, this is the best adaptation given a certain rule system. That's the thinking here. As far as the basis for Rabivania RPG mechanical wise go, why not use Mausritter for it since everyone loved it when we looked at it? I think we could. Oh, thank you for the link to Journey to the Tree of Sorrow. So if you want to see the stories and the lore and stuff like that about when I'm writing something dark and serious, that's where all of that is. It's professionally narrated by Ian Gordon. He's amazing. He's from the Horror Babble channel. Like I said, I don't operate that channel anymore, but that's where all of my serious writing is. So if you want to listen to a short story or listen to Cthulhu Mythos horror lore, that's it. So I think we ought to look at I think we ought to look at Mausritter. That would be fun. I mean, the problem is I don't think that people know Mausritter. So one of the reasons that we ended up using 5th edition for Journey to the Tree of Sorrows years and years ago, we thought about creating our own system back then. I never got to do it. That's why I was like, all right, now's the time. Now we got to do Faded Edge. But ultimately, Journey to the Tree of Sorrows was David's world. And so he made the call, let's go 5e. That way we don't have to develop our own system. People know it. A lot of people are already playing it. I understand the business decision, and it was his call. So doing one, I forget what, we'll have to look at the Mausritter licensing situation. I forget what it was. I need to do like a video and just put it out on YouTube that's like the most surprising RPG that one like very YouTube-y, like I've read 150 different RPG books or however many we've done on the grind so far. This was the most surprising that I found. It's undoubtedly Mausritter. So I think that would be fun. But see, potentially this allows us to do this because what they would be is that the lore of the world would be the same. So you wouldn't, if you got the world primer and you just looking for the lore, you just need one of them. But then you have several of them, so you put like Tales of Rabivania world primer up here, and then what system is here, and they're kind of rules light. But it would be fun to do one for Mausritter, and you can do that if you're doing smaller things rather than trying to lay out a whole book. Now, by the time the whole book comes out, well, I'm probably going to have to decide on one system. But doing one for Mausritter would be great. If I can't tell you how amazing that many design notes are. I'm talking about what I was just coming up with. What I would just spewed out. That's my thinking. So I've got method. There's method to the madness. That's what I'm trying to do. Like I said, eventually the big books will probably all be Faded Edge, but at least I want it to be easy. I want it to be easy to get into my stuff. I want it to be easy to pick it up. So if you just know a rule system, you're like, I don't want to learn a rule system. I want you to still be able to enjoy the worlds that I create. And that's also why I've been doing, and I'm going to do more of the YouTube stories, because there's nothing on the Theophany of the Fall, but that is the Theophany YouTube channel. Because I'm going to put the stories on their own YouTube channels. That's why Rabivania has its own YouTube channel, because it'll get lost on this channel, and you'll be, everything will be overlapping. So I'm making a different YouTube channel for every one of the worlds. That way it's there, and you can always go there, and then you can get like professionally read, the goal stories, professional narrated stories. That way you don't even have to read. You can just go to the YouTube channel whenever you've got some time or doing something else or cleaning the house and get into the world. 2 years of learning. 2 years of learning this has really led to giving many people what each they want, even the D&D universe. James says, I agree. Design notes are essential, and these design notes are comprehensive and detailed. Well, thank you. Okay, so I have got 10,000 words. This is the structure of the Tales of Rabivania primer, and I'm going through and making sure that everyone is right. It's actually been, I was wanting to set it down, set it away, and let it chill, let it cool, let it cool before I read it again and edited it. But it's all written except for I was trying to add in rules. And the other day, like 2 days ago, I was sitting here and I think I basically added in the 5e rules. And so we will see what you think of them, where the 5e rules go. And also make sure that like we're making sure there aren't any spelling errors or things like that. Because it's time for this to go to layout. And then I've got to figure out how I'm going to put art and stuff in here. One problem is that I realized, I said, hey, let's have 10,000 pages, 10,000 pages. Let's have 10,000 pages of text. Ultimately, have 10,000 pages of text. Have 10,000 words of text. That may actually blow my word count. I was kind of shocked when I did kind of like just a quick layout in 6x9 format. I may have blown my word count or my page count. So I may have to make adjustments. But we will see. So, this is, so it's going to have a quick preface, so part of my introduction. Then it will have an introduction to the world. We're going to take a look at that here in just a second. So if you don't know what Rabivania is, this is going to tell you, and this is going to become something that's going to get read, and I'm going to illustrate and put this up on YouTube. So this is going to get illustrated in some way. A problem that I always had with the Journey to the Tree of Sorrows, well, I can. So Robert says, why not just make playlists? It can take as much as 5 years to get any one YouTube channel off the ground. Or, in my case, many more than that. It's also because YouTube does not value having multiple types of things on a channel. It penalizes you for having multiple kinds of content on the channel. And so arguably that's a problem with this channel right here for YouTube, not obviously for the people who enjoy it, and are here, but I do multiple different types of things here on this channel, and that's arguably bad, but it's the way I want to do it. And I think I'm developing a pretty good brand and feel for what's on the channel with the Geekverse, the morning grinds, and then the table talks in the evening, and then some type of live show on Friday nights. I've kind of got that structure kind of going now. And like I said, if I do some clips of those, put only tabletop gaming kind of stuff, clips here on the channel, move the clips of the story analysis to another channel, because if they're two different kinds of stuff, YouTube won't like it. And if I start putting narrated audiobooks on this channel, I think that's just too much. So the idea is to make those channels much more targeted, and then that way that if you want Rabivania stories, that's the channel to go to. I don't know that that's right. I really have no idea what it takes to actually do something on YouTube. I really have no idea. So I don't know whether that's the right answer or not. Brianna and I talked about that a lot. Because I even tried putting out, you've got to have a lot of material too. And so we said, should the Cultist be on its own channel? And I did try that for a while. Or should Dinner and a Board Game be its own channel? But other people are like, you need like 400 videos. You got to be posting every day. Well, I can't run 9 channels that are being posted on every day. Now I could, if I clip a whole bunch of those like story things, and then the clips of stories, and then put those on their own channel. Because like if you record for 5.5 hours, that's a lot of 8 to 12 minute clips. So I don't know. That's my current thinking and why. I don't know if it's right. Brianna the Badass, yes. She'll be back next Tuesday. Oh, yes, thank you. Check out the Raven Keep store. So Raven Keep is where I put stuff that we are developing here. So ravenkeep.net, that is where I put stuff. And yes, the dice trays, there are still some dice trays left. Those are handmade dice trays. I made them in the workshop. Got different designs. So handmade workshops by me and Megan. Megan's my co-host for Dinner and a Board Game for the season 1. So we made them. So definitely check out this. You see them on Dinner and a Board Game when I play on Fridays. Okay. So this, if you haven't heard this, it's good for me to read this one more time, because this is going to be the introduction to Rabivania. This is a very important document right here. This section, because this tells you what Rabivania is. Like I said, so it's even though it's not, I want it to be family friendly, I take it very seriously. It's got stuff in it. So this is what it is. And this is going to be taken once I make sure that all the language is right. It's going to be read. I may end up narrating it. I've got some other gear to actually do a more professional setup to do some narration with. So I may end up narrating it, and then I want to put some type of illustrations with it. My problem with the Journey to the Tree of Sorrows channel is that the image was only one. It's YouTube. It's supposed to be something visual, but all of the lore and all of the stories just had one image throughout the entire thing. That's okay. I mean, people do audiobooks like that on YouTube a lot, but I wanted there to be a visual component to what I was telling. But it was David's art. So David did the art for Journey to the Tree of Sorrows, but it takes David a long time. And David's art's amazing. If you haven't seen David LaRocca's art, he does these charcoal art, and he did the a Lovecraftian dark horror, cosmic horror art. And some of it, I mean, this is some of his art. This is on his playmat. This is his interpretation of Yog-Sothoth right here. So he did this on charcoal. This is actually a playmat. We put it on a playmat, and we had some extra playmat. So I made dice trays out of the playmats. It makes the perfect rolling surface. Actually, there's an extra layer of foam under here, and then the playmat. And these make my favorite rolling surfaces. And they're cool because they've got David's art in them. So that's the Yog-Sothoth one. But the problem with the art is that it took so much time to generate. I was actually writing things, and I think there are still things that I wrote and then were read by Ian Gordon that we never were able to create art for. It took too long to create the art, and so it just wasn't getting out there. Now with AI art, I got to train some kind of model to get some of the knights right. But also, I've got things. We've got Adam, who's been working on the Tales of Rabivania. He understands what it looks like. Now, I want to be able to get more art. If I can train the AI model, then one thing that I want to have is a lot more images per video. That way, you're actually watching something. I want to try doing a little bit more animation with it. I'd rather those be better. I'd rather do fewer of them and make them be better, rather than doing more of them that just have like one image. So now all of a sudden, maybe with the AI stuff, it's flipped that now the art is easier and what takes longer is the writing. We will see. Robert says most YouTube views come from recommendations, and those are going to be uploads. Having a central channel makes sense. Clipping content specific onto smaller channels, I suppose, would be an interesting experiment, but you have to check for channel growth and see what works for one of these smaller channels that could take off. Yeah, well, we will see. I've been doing some experiments in that regard. I mean, the only thing I can do is experiment. I'll report back. Eventually on these things, we can look at the different, when we're doing world building, look at the different stats for the different worlds. And see what's first of all, see what's resonating with people or what the algorithm is responding to. Growth, like this channel basically doesn't grow. This channel is completely flat. I get about 1,000 views a day on this channel, no matter what I do. Even before I was live streaming every day at 9:30 a.m., before I was doing that, I was getting about 1,000 views. Now that I'm live streaming every day, I still get about 1,000 views. So, there is no growth. So it'd be interesting to know if I start a new channel that's more top. We will just see. I mean, I'll report back. We won't know if we'll try. So I'll report back. I'll share numbers and stuff like that. So we will see. It's an amazing rolling surface, Sable says. It's like a mouse pad, but the perfect amount of bounce to it. I know it's the perfect way to make dice trays. I put it. There's a video on this channel about making dice trays. It wasn't this version exactly. It was the Mark I version of this trays. So I do have a video about how to make them. No metal dice. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Okay, so this is what Rabivania is. Chapter 1. This is chapter 1 of this rules primer. A call to arms, an introduction to Rabivania. In ancient days, according to the tales the druids tell, Rabbits were but frightened creatures, cowering in their burrows in fear of the terrible monster Anorda, who ruled the world. But that changed when Clovis, son of stars and thunder, a rabbit like no other, was born. He taught the rabbits what it meant to be brave, brought flame from the world fire, smelted metals, and by his paws the first weapons were wrought. With them he slew Anorda and brought her reign of terror to an end, forging a new destiny for all rabbit kind. Rabbits became masters of their fate and established the kingdom of Rabivania, with Clovis ruling as its Vortigern. When armed and armored from the forge of Clovis, the gallant rabbit warriors had little to fear and carved Rabivania from the wilderness, sending other creatures who would do them harm to flight. The great warrens of the realm were safe under the aegis of Clovis and his mighty thanes. They lived in harmony with the spirits of rock, root, stream, and rock. Spirits of tree, root, stream, and rock, through the guidance of the druids and witches. But alas, even the days of Clovis came to an end, and in time the memory of great Clovis faded into legend. Without worthy foes to keep their attention, the rabbits turned their swords upon one another, and terrible battles were waged. The bloodiest of these battles was at Callan Mere, the site of a 3-day-long battle that turned the lake's waters red with blood. But from this death, new hope for salvation emerged. For within the lake dwelt a beautiful rabbit doe, the mother of the mere. She wept for the deaths of the rabbits on the shore. When the rabbits of the encamped hosts awoke on the morning of the 4th day, walking in the mists among the dead was the mother's most powerful servant, the first Magus of the Mist, a doe of surpassing beauty. With her were 9 beautiful maidens, the damsels of the blood royal, does of great virtue, who were her servants. Each damsel was garbed in white with golden trim. They shamed the rabbit lords and made them look upon the bodies of their brothers, fathers, and sons who had been slain in battle. The mages told them of the mother of the lake, how she loved them, and how her heart was breaking to see such carnage. The hearts of the rabbit warriors were moved, and they knelt down to worship the doe within the mere. Thus it was that the merest religion came to Rabivania. The mages called forward 13 rabbit warriors of greatest virtue to confer upon them the accolade of knighthood. They swore to live according to the faith of the mother, protect the weak and defenseless, combat injustice, always speak the truth, and ever display bravery and honor. They were girt with white belts and with a slender sword. Oh, that sounds like I want to change that up. They were girt with white belts, and with a slender sword she dubbed them the first of the knights of Rabivania. She told the damsels to scour the land far and wide until they had found a rabbit worthy of being crowned High King in Rabivania, to unify the kingdom and be the protector of the mother's faith. She charged the knights to be the damsels' protector as they traveled. At long last, the damsels found the rabbit Aiden, who would be called the Bear, as upon his shield and banner he bore a black bear upon a white field. The damsels brought him to the bank of Callan Mere, and there the mages crowned him High King of Rabivania. Aiden brought the rebellious rabbit lords to heel and restored order and sanity to Rabivania. No rat, weasel, or raccoon could withstand a lance-wielding knight, fully armed and armored, astride a great war fox. Even the venomous snakes, savage boars, and other great beasts of the land were put to flight. In those days, Aiden ruled wisely and justly, the perfect example of a Mirite king. The religion of the mother flourished in Rabivania. But now the tales of Clovis are but myth, and Aiden's kingship has faded into legend, and trouble brews in the land once again. The kingdom is fracturing. The rot of hubris, avarice, and dishonor have seeped into the most powerful warrens. Rabbit lords have taken for themselves monarchical titles, proclaiming themselves kings, ruling from their own halls. The mages of the Mere cannot be found, and in her absence, the Mirite matriarchs, safe within their palaces, are obsessed with sweeping away the last vestiges of Clovician religion and extinguishing druidism and witchcraft forever. But the religion of the witches can still be found on the fringes of Rabivanian society, and sometimes even practiced secretly in the halls of other outwardly Mirite warrens. Moreover, the ancient order of druids cannot be easily brushed aside. Its members work among the populace, and because of their network across the kingdom, their order may know more of the secret happenings within Rabivania than any other. Meanwhile, outside of Rabivania's borders, a fearsome raccoon warlord is searching for a magical weapon of unsurpassed power, which would make him invincible, all while unifying the disparate barbarian raccoon tribes into a horde of such size that it could easily sweep aside the defenses of any Rabivanian lords. Rabivania must unify against the threat, but the throne of the High King at Cloven Call is empty. With the mages of the Mere missing, the damsels cannot be tasked to search for a new high king. Instead, the nobles of the Great Warrens petition the matriarchs to establish a new precedent, to declare one of their number high king. But it's not for the good of the realm that they do this. They each jockey to ensure that it's a member of their own borough holds who shall be chosen to satisfy their own thirst for power. Rabivania needs new heroes, those who will not heed those who will heed the call to adventure and can balance the spirits of rock, root, and tree with the true meaning of the religion of the mother. They must unify the kingdom and not be afraid to do battle with brutal raccoon and wicked weasel. Remember our history, the spirit of Rabivania, Clovis, the mother, and all we are. Stay true, heed the call to arms, and remember, you must always be brave. And this is a call to arms, an in-universe text as written by the anchorite of Willow Grove Locked. So this is an in-universe text that this anchorite wrote to send out to Rabivania to inspire them, to let them remember who they are, to remind them of who they are and what their situation is, why it's so desperate, and to get new heroes. So this is where the RPG picks up, and also where the main storyline picks up. So that's where we start. I took this the other day when I was writing the script. So Cameron said also don't start with the actual novel. Start by writing the movie script. So I said, okay. So I took this and I see some things. I'm glad I read that again because it's been a while since I've read it. So I do want to make some changes here. I noticed there was some ambiguity sometimes about some of the reference of who they were talking about at some time. Like it sounds like the knights had slender swords or something like that. So I do need to make another quick pass over this, but that's basically it. That sounded pretty good, I think. And I think it sets the tone for Rabivania. But I had to take this and I had to cut this down because I want this to also be the opening of the film. If there was going to be a film, which is the long shot is the film. But Cameron said, go ahead and start with go ahead and start by writing the movie scripts, then write the novels from the movie scripts. So that's why it'll be a long time before stories get out. The actual main storylines gets out to people. He said, write the script first, have 2 or maybe 3 scripts before you move to Hollywood, before you move out there to Los Angeles. Brianna wants to live in Los Angeles. So her plan is to next year also have her scripts ready. She's writing her scripts. So I was like, well, it would be an adventure that we're supposed to have. We have like a year to get the scripts ready. And like I said, that's been disaster too. It's been disaster too. And then go out there with the scripts. Because I can sit here in my house and I can write scripts, theoretically. I don't have to go out to LA where it's expensive to write scripts. But Cameron said, go ahead and write the scripts. So if you can pitch it and then it's successful, I mean, that's the long shot. That's the long shot. But hey, you can't do it if you don't write the scripts. Won't ever happen if the scripts aren't written. Then write books from the scripts. Because I had always been thinking, okay, what I would have to do is I have to write the books. It'd have to be like a major bestseller. And then if it were a major bestseller, then there might be a chance there might be a movie or something like that. Cameron said, nope, don't necessarily do it that way because if you can just pitch it direct. And so do both at the same time. I would never thought of that. So that was Cameron's suggestion. So I had to take this. I had to take all of this and turn it into 2 pages of script. I needed this right here to explain what Rabivania is in only 2 pages of movie script, which is not easy. And then also associate that with what imagery would be on the screen. So I have gotten that. I was very happy with that. I finished that a couple of days ago. So the first 2 pages have an advanced draft, and it's this written in movie script format, dramatically cut back. And then also there's some other information about exactly what we're starting with in the opening scene of the movie, and also all of the imagery. And then boom, we start with our main timeline hero. Sable says, very Arthurian. I like it. Yes. Well, there is a lot of Arthurian inspiration in Rabivania. A lot, obviously. A lot of Arthurian inspiration in Rabivania, especially once King Aiden appears. The Nose Play says, this is really good, but I'd say a bit more PG-13 than a children's book. Well, that's okay. That's okay. Stargate's Mind says, I have my novel draft called a script, LOL. Yeah, so I would say, yeah. So I said, I want to do this for different ages. I want to do this for different ages. I want there to be stories in Rabivania for different ages, all the way up through probably young adult. So the mainline novels are probably young adult kinds of novels. I mean, with the J.K. Rowling had, the stories get more advanced and so kind of grow up with the children. So that could be an interesting way to do it. I only see there being like 3 main storylines in Rabivania. I want to tell the story of Clovis, which was the first book that I had written. I got about 70% of the way through before it was like bounced. Nope. Cameron knew what was going on, and he provided good material, good revisions. So that will happen, but it requires a extensive rewrite. And he said I need to write something else before anyway. But Clovis is one of the storylines. I want to tell his story, and then I want to tell Aiden's story. So that's like the historic tales, and then the stories that are set in the main timeline that tells the main story itself. So yeah, so this is the RPG stuff. This is a bit older. So yes, family friendly doesn't necessarily mean children's book level. I've got a couple of other stories to write that are younger, but then I would say the RPG stuff is a bit older stuff. Pitch a story Bible just like Stranger Things did, a short visual story Bible. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'll put together a show Bible, a story Bible, and stuff like that. I mean, I've got to have more than just the script as well. But you got to have the script ready. Cameron's helping me on that. There may after the strike, after the writer's strike, there may be no Hollywood to go out to. So that's the long shot anyway. I'm trying to set this up. I'm trying to structure this so that YouTube is a foundation. So I got to figure out how to actually grow with our experiments. I'm trying to set this up as YouTube as a foundation. But then the RPG and other tabletop games is kind of the main product line. So that's the every day is the YouTube, punctuated by releases of tabletop stuff for the worlds. And then part 3 is the long shot, which is getting like the movie script ready. The Nose Play says, has a very Secret of Nim, but fantasy vibe from this. Not a bad thing at all, but definitely contrast with your Goodnight Sword book. Yeah, Goodnight Sword is very sweet. That's Pate. Pate's one of the main characters. Very sweet, very for the youngest kind of audience. You're seeing Rabivania through his eyes. You're seeing Rabivania through different eyes here. I mean, that's true. That's kind of in universe. Goodnight Sword is kind of in universe. You're hearing Pate's thought, so that's kind of an in universe thing. Here you've got an in universe call to action and call to arms by what is the situation in our kingdom here. Mike says, my introduction to The Hobbit was the animated movie back in the 70s. From there, I read the book. As a young child, the movie was fantastic and a great intro. I bet that a lot of people probably came to it that way. Mine was definitely the book. There's a tradition in my family that you're read The Hobbit when you're old enough to understand it, but probably a little bit too young to actually read it yourself. You get it read to you. I love that family tradition. Okay, so that's what Rabivania is. Where I'm trying to go with it. I think that's pretty good. Like I said, I guess I need to make a few changes, but that sounded pretty good to me. I think if you listen to that, you would know what Rabivania is. And I can see it. I can see what I would want the images to be up on the screen. Clovis is very like Anglo-Saxon. So all of this, because Clovis doesn't have knights. Clovis has thanes. And eventually, I think it would be cool to do like you could do a world primer that is set in this world primer is set in the main timeline. But you could do one as well. I thought maybe that's what I have to do since I was writing the story of Clovis first. Clovis has thanes, not knights. I say the word thane. Oh yeah, the aegis of Clovis and his mighty thanes. So Clovis has knights. So it's like an Anglo-Saxon environment. Very Celtic as well. Drawing on inspiration from Celtic and Anglo-Saxon myth for when we're talking about Clovis, and then you get into Arthurian myth for Aiden, and then that kind of carries forward, and then you've got the conflict between the two in sort of the main timeline. So, according to this book, let's look at the at the 5e rules and what we're doing here. So the next thing that is in this, so the major chapter headings are the introduction, then the player characters, then information on knights and nobles, then a gazetteer, which I got to do some mapping too. There's so much to do. I wish I had more than 24 hours in a day. I'm glad I'm feeling energetic. I'm glad I'm getting some energy going because there's so much to do. Because one of the things I've got to figure out how to do is the maps. And of course, I taught cartography. I mean, my PhD is in geography, and I taught cartography. So I should be able to do a good map. The map should look good. I kind of want to do, I mean, everything is at the computer. And we talked about that. And we actually, years ago, months ago in the morning grind, we were talking about how do we actually create this world in a way that's possible. That was before AI. But I was talking about, gee, it would be nice to get away from the computer because, as you know, I sit here in this chair at this computer quite a bit. But then again, now AI, I mean, what's the best way to do it? It's on the computer. But I still would like to be able to do a hand-drawn map of Rabivania. I know how I want it to kind of look. And I've got a projector and I can project stuff up. It would be fun to do at least one thing that wasn't on the computer, and maybe the whole main world map. But we don't need may not need a complete world map right now. But we've got a gazetteer of some key places to at least get you started, and then a bestiary here. Oh, I need to write that. Write something there at the bestiary. So almost done, almost. So that needs to be added. But of some NPCs and things like that, and that's the world primer. Okay, so player characters. This is where the rules are. So the only playable species in the world primer is rabbit. Okay, so player characters, species, rabbits. So rabbits and 5e. So this is what we came up with. So rabbit traits, ability score increases, your dexterity score increases by 2, and your wisdom score increases by 1. Size, bipedal rabbits are medium creatures. Because I do say in here that I have a section on adapting for 5e, scaling sizes, weights, and distances. And it says like this, because I'm not trying to rewrite all of 5e. So the world primer is intended to get you playing in the world of Rabivania as quickly as possible with the existing 5e rules, with as little change to the core mechanics of the game as possible. Because I only have this amount of space anyway, so I got to introduce you to Rabivania. I can't rewrite the 5th edition rules. Like I would kind of like to do with to deal with squires and their relationship with knights, but I realized I just don't have the page count in this. And plus, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to rewrite 5th edition. The goal is if you already know 5th edition or whatever rule sets in one of these, then I don't be changing that up on you. So that's probably the better way to go. Like then later, if you need to change it up, you can do that in a more extensive book. To facilitate this, do not try to meticulously convert every detail, such as size, weights, and distances. So the rabbits are actually rabbit size, but you never encounter humans in Rabivania. So just go ahead and say that, hey, let's just treat, for the purpose of the rule set, rabbits as medium-sized creatures, make the mice small, but then the coyotes, wolves, and things like that huge. Larger creatures, if you encounter an elk or a moose, okay, make them huge, gargantuan as appropriate. Assume we're talking about something like Rabivanian feet if you see a measurement, and also things like Rabivanian pounds. That way you don't have to recalibrate all of that, because the intention anyway is for a rabbit knight to be armed, armored, and otherwise equipped similarly to a human knight, as a human knight would be in 5th edition. So I don't have the page count for it, and now is not the time to try to actually, like I said, for Fated Edge, we're going to be using slots anyway. But now is not the time to say, okay, now let's convert all of the 5th edition equipment to actually how much it would weigh if it were being carried by a rabbit, and then recalibrate all of the encumbrance system. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. So that's the easiest way, I think, to just jump in. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning. Now some rabbits, some of the rabbits they breed for meat, those things can be huge. So rabbit feet, rabbit pounds, rabbit yards. Got it. Hey, Andrew. Andre. Welcome. Good to see you. I don't think I've seen you here on the grind before. So welcome. Or at least in the comments. Good to see you. Yeah, the Flemish ones. Yeah, I saw that. Like, oh my God. And then later we could get into types of rabbits later. But like I said, I'm pressing word count right now anyway. So bipedal rabbits are medium creatures. Your base walking speed is 30 feet. Keen ears, you have advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing. I looked through all of the 5th edition stuff to figure out, like, well, what does it say a standard rabbit or weasel or something like that in 5th edition is? And some of them all have kind of very similar stats anyway. So I started with that, but then had to break it out. Always ready. So I was trying to come up with what kind of rabbit-like things would you be expecting? If you're just like, hey, I'm going to play a rabbit, always ready. Your quick reflexes give you advantage on initiative rolls. Long jump, as an action, you may make a long jump up to 20 feet. That's Rabivanian feet. I'm not actually talking about this rabbit jumping 20 feet, but that keeps it easy for 5th edition. And a high jump up to 10 feet, even if you do not have a running start. Rabbits, you'd expect them to jump, have quick reflexes. Of course, their ears, they've got to be able to hear, and then burrow where you have proficiency in the athletic skill when you're making checks to dig, tunnel, or excavate. You can also burrow through loose soil at a rate of 5 feet per round. So that seems to be the 5th edition. I think that's a pretty good 5th edition rabbit. If there were ever a GURPS version, we could go into great detail on exactly how many point values a rabbit is. Let's try to come up with the most realistic but bipedal rabbit, like you might see in this. We could get into that in detail in something like GURPS. Do I have a jackalope in this setting? I have not. Let me look that up. I have not. I do not. Jackalope. Is that one of the giant ones? Oh, no. It's the. Oh, no. The jackalope is a mythical. So this is not one of the large rabbits. So no, the jackalope is a mythical animal of North American folklore. Describes a jackrabbit with antelope horns. I need one. Why have I never heard of this? Thank you, Last Phoenix. Even if it's in their own mythology. Have a jackalope. Many jackalope taxidermy mounts, including the original, are made with deer antlers. Popularized the American jackalope in 1930s. A hunter with taxidermy skills popularized the American jackalope by grafting deer antlers onto a jackrabbit carcass and selling the combination to a local hotel in Douglas, Wyoming. Thereafter, they made and sold many similar jackalopes to a retail outlet in South Dakota. And I see this is the jackalope mount. This is. Hold on, let me bring this up. That's one. That needs to be a mythological creature in Rabivania. See, that's something. See, that could show up. If it were a mythological creature, it could show up in the Tales of Clovis and Aiden, because those are intentionally the mythology of Rabivania as it stands today. So I'm also thinking this is like a druidic thing, like antlers and stuff. You got the druids. It seems like some kind of major something like that. That is cool. Need to. Andre says, I've been looking around for a while since a couple of the GURPS videos back. First time engaging. Oh, well then we have to drink to you. Yep, first, that's what I thought. If you're here for the first time and you comment for the first time, you get your own sip. That's a new tradition I like we just started. So here we go. Here's to you, Andre. Yes, that is a fantastic suggestion. So it's possible it comes from a German. There's a German version too. Robert says, on channel growth, we're finding at work that playing clips around short commentary about 3 to 12 minutes is a steady diet. The short commentary contextualizes the clips. Okay. Yeah, that's what 3 to 12. See, that's what I was thinking about clipping the stories to. And I think some information from the morning grind we're talking about, I was working on that yesterday. From the morning grind should be in that range as well. It's your anti-paladin, so that's good to know. So we'll just try more stuff and see. Stargate Mind says, I've got some other information on that I can share, but I don't have the data pulled together. Stargate Mind says it's your anti-paladin. I mean, there are probably knights who put the deer antlers on their helmet like this. Yes, that's cool. I need to have that. So then I wanted to provide 4 different classes / professions. Character class. Okay, so this is the 5th edition. Well, okay, this actually over here isn't in there. So I call them classes because this is in 5th edition. As I said, once we get Fated Edge together, we'll do one for Fated Edge. But see, I can just drop in. So this is the knight text, for instance, and then down here is my information on knight class for 5th edition. So I can come in here and I can say, all right, now we're doing Fated Edge, or now we're going to do Moss Ritter, or now we're going to do something else, and I can just put these in here. Now I have to go back out to layout. But I was intentionally trying to keep the lore and the game stats separate in the document, so that I can say knight. Okay, that's all lore. This is about what it is. Now it's time to go to your stats. So I can just stack up the different stats for different games in here. I mean, Pathfinder 2 is probably one that is something that also we should do for the worlds. That's what I was originally thinking. I was like, well, maybe there should be 5e, Pathfinder 2, and then Fated Edge, my own. We'll see. But you got to have knight. Now, the deal here is that I wanted, ideally, because a lot of the characters in the main timeline, they start off as squires. I want the main timeline story. The main timeline story does have to do with growing up. So I want that to be, that's a major part of the story. So they get squired and they need to learn how to become knights. You know, that they're in a long training phase in order to get them equipped, both martially and then also from the virtue perspective and character building and all of that, to become knights to be able to solve the problems. So growing up is an important part of the main timeline stories. So I would like ultimately to be able to have growing up be a optional part of this kind of game. So if you've got stories where people are squires and stuff like that, then you should be able to play that as well. So this comes back to our classic question of, does it make sense to have a level 1 knight? Does it make sense to have a level 1 paladin? I talked about that on the channel. Arguably, I say no. And, it was talking about in our OSR that levels 1 to 5, you could still be a squire level 1 to 5, and that's going up to 36. But your squires would be level 1 to 5. So does it make sense to have a level 1 knight? Arguably, no. But this is where I was like, I also don't have the word count. And so this is what people are expecting. I don't have time to come up with a complex relationship between knights and squires, because I would love, like we talked about, like a branching and forking class structure. Because if I were going to do a game that was class based, I would want to say that you're starting off as, like, I guess you could call it a fighter, but you're a squire or whatever. And then you get to a certain point, and then if you're knighted and you pass all the prerequisites, then you can go into the knight class. And if you don't, then you have to stay, a fighter, or, and then become a rabbit at arms or something like that. That's how I would do it if I had a lot more word count. And, and then you could become a paladin from there, or whatever else you get. I like in Hack Mastery that you have to be a knight before you can become a paladin. So I would add all that in, but there's no space for it in the book. Constraints enhance creativity. That's why I'm like, well, I could, it could just be whatever page count I wanted. But here's the constraint. Here's what I'm making. And then design the layouts and stuff like that in InDesign, or I'm using Pages if I can do that simply. But I may have to move over to InDesign, especially for something more complicated. Set it up so I know exactly what I'm making, and then be able to make several different ones of them, because I don't need them all to be different lengths, for instance. All right, let's make 12 different books, and they're all different lengths, and some of them are black and white, and some of them are color, and some of them are hardback, and some that's too much. Here's the product. Make it conform. Let's see. So knight here. So that's why I said, all right, then let's just go first level knight. You want to play a knight? Let's get started. Here's level 1 knight. So I don't think we need to discuss what the knights are, because knights are this is supposed to be 13th century knights. So 5th edition knight. So this is what I decided on. So this is I basically finished this. Was this yesterday or the day before? So I think this is the way I'm going to go. So let's look at it. And I'm only going to 5th level as well. So we can go to it in a more extended book. We can go all the way to level 20. Most games only go up to like 1 to 5 anyway. But if you pick this up, you've got the information like in some of the intro boxes and things like that. Pathfinder does this, D&D does this, that the intro boxes just go to 5th level. Most games are just up to 5th level anyway. So a Knight class, D10, primary ability strength, saving throw proficiencies, strength and constitution, armor proficiencies, all armor and shields, weapon proficiencies, simple weapons and martial weapons, skill proficiencies, choose any from animal handling, athletics, history, insight, intimidation, or survival. I did add in arming sword because I realized that we needed gear. And that's another thing that's that may be blowing my page count. So I got to figure out how to get this laid out. Because I also want them all to be laid out in consistent fashion too. I don't want some of them to have 13-point font and some of them to have 8-point font. So I'm trying to pack it in. So I also need to standardize the layout. But arming sword is better to me than broadsword. Robert says, also RPG market news likely tracking WotC missteps, pushing social media commentary instead of fun games can also help to structure a narrative in favor of indie alternatives. You're talking about content-wise. Those are the best videos that I put out. If I talk about something that WotC is doing wrong, those always get a lot of traction. Now, that just because somebody watches a video on what WotC is doing wrong doesn't mean they stay around to watch something else. There's obviously people on YouTube also who are like every video, like not putting different types of stuff out on the channel. Like a lot of their material is, hey, let's talk about how we don't like WotC. I didn't want to do that because first of all, like this is supposed to give me energy. I don't want to sit here. I know every morning, let's wake up and let's talk about something that we hate. Like I don't want to do that. I'd rather talk about things that I like, get the energy and stuff like that. So I can't do that. Even though, yes, things like when I do talk about something WotC's done, that's one of the most popular videos. People like to watch that. They don't necessarily stay around for the other videos, but they do like to watch that. So you could build a channel off of, let's just talk about things we don't like about Wizards of the Coast. You could totally do that. Hey, Andrew, keep it smart to keep it simple. If it goes gangbusters, you can always expand later. Exactly. This is also the philosophy of what's the least you can do. And I know that sounds terrible in the beginning, but it's like, what's the least you can do? No, but that's not. In order to accomplish your goal, what's the least you can do? Well, that's why I was like, well, this. Because what's the most you can do? Oh, I know what's the most I can do. The most I can do for Rabivania would be like a series of 3 books of this size and this complexity that detail Clovis and then Aiden and then the main timeline. I mean, I can totally come up with what the most to do is. The key is coming up with what's the least you can do that you're satisfied with, that conveys everything, that gets this started, and then you expand from there. Minimum viable product. Yeah, exactly. So equipment, arming sword, warhammer or hand axe, lance or spear. So arming sword, warhammer or hand axe, whichever you want to use. A lance or spear, a shield, mail hauberk, a war fox with riding gear. So go ahead and you get to be a knight. Just go. I mean, that's what you're going to be doing. You get to be a knight. Lance, spear or lance with your shield, your hand weapon, mail hauberk. This is the 13th century. I love the 14th century and the 13th century, and I went back and forth, but so I went with 13th century to be the main timeline. So this is definitely the age of mail. The rabbits are not wearing plate armor. They are wearing mail. Level 1 fighting style. You adopt a particular fighting style as your specialty. Choose one of the following options. You cannot take a fighting style option more than once, even if you later get to choose again. Mounted combatant. When you are mounted, not incapacitated, and wielding a sword, axe, flail, warhammer, or weapon with similar properties, you have advantage on melee attack rolls against unmounted creatures smaller than your mount. Smaller than your mount just means that you can't fight if you're fighting a boar and you're astride your fox. You wouldn't get that. So this is against it's unmounted foes. So if you want to be the mounted guy, this is the mounted melee guy. This is you. You have advantage on melee attack rolls against unmounted creatures smaller than your mount. Expert jouster. When mounted and charging with a lance or spear, you score a critical hit on a roll of 19 or 20. When you roll a 1 or 2 on any damage die for an attack you make with a lance from horseback, you can re-roll the die. You must use the new die roll. So that if you want to hit hard coming in on the joust or coming in with the lance, this one's based on like the great fighting. So great weapon fighting is here too, but this is a more limited circumstance because you have to be mounted and you've got to be coming in on the charge. So great fighting is when you roll a 1 or a 2 on a damage die for an attack that you make with a melee weapon that you're wielding with 2 hands. You can re-roll the die and you must use the new roll. The weapon must have the 2-handed or versatile property for you to gain this benefit. So you can use that over and over and over again in combat. So I tried to base the expert jouster over the great weapon fighting, but because this is more limited, it expands your critical roll and allows you to reroll your critical range and allows you to reroll damage. Because chances are then you're going to be stuck in melee. And especially if your lance breaks and things like this. So this is coming in once. So if you want to hit hard, I hope that's enough. If you want to hit hard coming in, that's the one that you take. Mounted defense. If you're wearing armor, shielded and mounted, you gain a +2 bonus to your AC. This if you want to be the tank, basically. Mounted defense. That's a way to get the highest, what should be the highest AC in the game. Because you don't have plate armor. There's no plate armor. So your AC is going to cap out at mail. But if you, the who should be the highest AC around, a knight fully armored. A knight fully armored with a shield on his mount, probably barded, and then go ahead and take the +2 AC bonus. That would get you into the highest AC of the game. I know a channel that streams for like 4 hours a week because all they do is sleeps for 4 hours a week because all they do is report on the bugs that a game have every day. A lot of, I don't know. I think we're getting some more traction. Oh, speaking, and also advertising on other channels. By the way, so we did, I was interviewed on the Burnett Network by RM. Was that last Monday? But that wasn't yesterday, was it? I've lost days, especially with the long streaming last night and stuff like that. But there's going to be the Cultist watch party next Saturday. Next Saturday, which is the 3rd. I don't think that's not this coming Saturday. June the 3rd. They're going to do a Cultist watch party. We're going to watch all of season 1. They invited me on. So there's going to be a watch party of the Cultist. If you haven't seen season 1 on Saturday on the Burnett Network. So exposure on other networks. I think he's got like 60,000 subscribers. So we've got exposure over there. But your take is far more intelligent, Robert says. Your storytelling and movie streams are great examples that offer the contrast of good stories in the alternative that's rare. That's rare. Yeah, I wish that more people. Well, thank you. I hope that mine are good with the storytelling. I wish we had more support. I wish we had more infrastructure for the independent storytelling and movie types of streams or videos and stuff like that. I wish we did. I was talking more about that with Doug after the stream last night. We didn't talk long after the stream. We did talk about that. And, I would like to talk more about that to Vic Mignogna. I need to talk to Vic Mignogna. I want to talk to him about that too, because he did Star Trek Continues. But what is our situation here? So that's how you become the super defense. Great weapon fighting. We just said that. So if you want to be the great weapon fighter, you can be the great weapon fighter. And then protection. Level 1 fighting style. So, okay, this is one of the other the fighting styles. Protection. When a creature you can see attacks a target other than you that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll. To use this ability, you must be wielding a shield. That one's imported as well. So second wind, you have limited knowledge. I don't want them to be behind fighters. So give the knight second wind as well. You have a limited well of stamina that you can draw on to protect yourself from harm. On your turn, you can use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 10 plus your knight level. When you use this feature, you must finish a short rest or a long rest before you can use it again. Level 2, Great Blow. At level 2, your dedication to honor allows you to channel your inner strength into a powerful melee attack. When you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you can elect to make it an extra vicious blow. You deal an extra 1d6 damage of the weapon's type on the hit. This is based on something like that allows like was it paladins or clerics to do radiant damage. But radiant damage doesn't make sense. This is the knight. We're focused on the actual weapon. So I think it makes sense to give him great blow, but make that 1d6 damage of whatever type of weapon you're using. So he's not using a magic hit. It's not magic. It's not radiant like a D&D cleric or paladin or whatever one this is. So just allow him to land a great blow. You can use this feature a minimum of times equal. Feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, minimum of once. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So I like that. It takes away the magic, but also allows the knights to hit hard. Level 3, Unyielding Resolve. When you make a saving throw against being charmed, frightened, or paralyzed, you can add your proficiency bonus to that roll. Level 4, Ability Score Improvement. At 4th level, you can increase 1 ability score of your choice by 2, or you can increase 2 ability scores of your choice by 1. This is your normal level up. Or you can pick a feat or something like that. Your skills up. As normal, you cannot increase an ability score above 20 using this feature. And then level 5, you get the attack twice. I think that's a pretty good knight. I think I would be happy, I think, playing that. Like if you can do a level 1 knight, hey, make a level 1 knight for Rabivania. Take the rabbit species and then add that knight class right there. I think that's pretty good. I mean, you start off well armored because in order to be a knight, you have to have your gear. I mean, this is pretty classic 13th century gear. What does it take to be a knight? Well, being a knight is not just about having the gear, but in order to be a knight, you have to have the gear because your function is to be a heavy cavalryman. I mean, you are the heavy cavalry. So if you don't have a horse, in this case, a war fox, and you don't have a hauberk and a spear and a shield, you're not going to be, you can't be effective heavy cavalry. So this allows you to start the game as well. You're level 1, but you are heavy cavalry. Honor damage. Clearly. Like for the extra D6. Okay, so now what do we do here? So I've been streaming for an hour and a half. So like I said, we've been going longer, about an hour and a half, rather than originally we just went for an hour on the show. So we talked about getting some kind of battle rhythm going. I'm trying to maintain productivity here. And so I need to make sure the goal was, like when I was just doing once a week on rules design and world building, it was to make sure that I was writing, but then I fell into a slump and was not writing. I was doing it. I don't know what, but so it seems like we may need to expand those 2 days to more than just once a week. I do like looking at other games because that's been helping with our design principles, but we might slide. One time, like Sunday was our potpourri day where I was looking at just a miscellaneous kinds of stuff. And then like Friday was our unboxing day. If there's something to unbox, I like unboxing things. So we need some kind of rhythm. Yeah. Battle rhythm where maybe Saturday is unboxing. Sunday is potpourri. Monday is like look at an RPG day. Tuesdays would be rules. Wednesdays would be world. Thursday, we need another rules and world. Sometimes they end up blending together like today. Sometimes you have to put the rules with the world. So I'll think about that. So we may be transitioning because I want to be able to run a Kickstarter for the world primer for Rabivania reasonably soon after the Goodnight Sword is fulfilled. So that's why I'm also like, okay, now I got to get serious about making sure that I get this writing, because Goodnight Sword, running this as a test as well. That Kickstarter is kind of running as a test, doing it on print on demand with the PDF to make sure everything goes smoothly. It's a very simple Kickstarter for that reason. And then after that, well, then we can start bringing out some of the world material and the RPG stuff. So I want to be able to have this primer ready to go after Tales of after Goodnight Sword, and then I want the Theophany World Primer to go after we fulfill the Goodnight Sword, after the Tales of Rabivania World Primer. So I want to get going here. So I got to use this energy. So we might have to talk about this more day to day. But it seems like we enjoyed. I mean, the conversation has been great. I love having the conversation with you guys. So it seems like it's enjoyable. And like yesterday, we were just specifically looking at rules for Fated Edge. I mean, there were a lot of people here, and there was a lot of conversation on it. So that seems to also be very popular. So that's good. So it also is very popular. In fact, yesterday actually had more people on it. We were talking about rules design specifically, and not the world building as well, but just the world design. That was one of the most popular streams, live streams that I've done in the past couple of weeks or something like that. So maybe that is also something that's popular, and looking at the data going, okay, maybe we should do that more but it's also, I've got to do it more because I want the products out. I want to be able to get it to everybody's table who wants it and get it to my table as well. I have an idea later. Yes, please do like the stream, Sable Phoenix. World Building Wednesdays has always had such a nice stream to it. Yeah, so I want a ring to it. So World Building Wednesdays I was trying to come up with like Rule Building Tuesdays, but there's no ring. I was trying like Rule Set Tuesdays or something, but World Building Wednesdays. World Building needs to be on Wednesdays again. Yes, I'm excited to be seeing new people on the streams as well. So that is great. So, well, there's also the schedule too, right? Yeah, for everybody, there's also matching schedules and stuff like that. But then also, what picked up on replay, even like yesterday's RPG design, because there's a lot more. There's a lot more we got to do with Faded Edge. Because ideally, like I would like Faded Edge, the initial Faded Edge to also be the size. We talked about that yesterday. So ideally later, like on one Kickstarter would be, okay, here's the Faded Edge core rules. That's the general rules. And then also here's the world primer that has the Faded Edge rules inside, like the world specific Faded Edge rules. That's where I'm trying to go with that as well. So I always overestimate what we can get done on a single stream. All right. I'm excited. This has worked again. You got energy? I got energy. I think it's because of the stream. I don't think it's just because I've been sitting here drinking Mountain Dew. I had the energy drink yesterday, but this was a good stream. It was a high energy stream. I want the morning grind in general to be a great morning show for everybody in the Geekverse. If you like tabletop games, I want this to be a great morning show for everybody. I want everybody to start the day right with the morning grind. And like it was supposed to be celebrating. I started waking up earlier again. I didn't wake up early when I was streaming until 1 o'clock in the morning. But if I'm doing creative work in the morning and then morning grind hits, maybe I said yesterday, maybe what I should be doing or to have a more enthusiastic morning grind meetings, like maybe if I wake up 4:45 and I'm here at the desk, that's always the goal. It hasn't happened because I've been such a slump. If I'm here working at 5 o'clock in the morning, if I sit down at the desk and I just start like slamming tequila and working on Rabivania or Theophany, by the time 9:30 hits and it's time for the grind, we'd be ready to have a good time. Maybe it's not, and everybody can be like, all right, everybody, are you here with me? Are you up? Are you working at 5 o'clock in the morning? All right, everybody, let's take a tequila shot. All right, that'll get us ready for the morning grind. Maybe that's not such a good idea. All right, everybody, be productive, be creative. I will maybe see you tonight. Depends on what happens with Michelle. I'll put it in Discord, and you'll also see if you're checking YouTube. I mean, the thumbnail will come up, but YouTube doesn't tell you that. If YouTube doesn't tell you, check Discord. I'll put out a notification if we're going to have a stream tonight. I don't know. But otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Later, everybody. Be creative, be productive, and grind on.